What's up, y'all, and welcome back to CountryCast. Today we are going to be sharing some very exciting and intriguing news surrounding Garth Brooks and his so-called alter ego, Chris Gaines. Remember that guy? Yeah, the black hair, the soul patch, very mysterious, kind of an emotional rock star vibe. Well, for the ones who don't know about Chris Gaines, he was a character for Garth Brooks that never really came to fruition back in the late 90s. Many actually thought the character was dead and we would never see him again. Well, not according to Garth Brooks in a recent interview he did with Billboard. He has revealed major plans for his alter ego to make a return. So could we be seeing the rebirth of Chris Gaines? Y'all know what to do. Stick around. And just like always, real quick before we get started, remember to head on over to our social accounts, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to give us a like and a follow. Our Facebook is CountryCast, our Instagram is CountryCast News, and our Twitter is @CountryCast News. If you're new here or have been by the YouTube show before, hit that subscribe button down below, please. And remember to turn on those notifications as well. Hit that like button so YouTube knows that you love us here at CountryCast, and we can keep bringing you updates on your favorite country artist and all the news coming right out of Music City. All right, so let's dive into this wild story. Like I said, Chris Gaines could be making a comeback for Garth Brooks or with Garth Brooks, however you want to look at it. Chris Gaines is the so-called alter ego of Garth Brooks from back in the late 90s in the year of 1999. So a quick recap for the ones who do not know, Chris Gaines was a developed character by Garth Brooks, Paramount Pictures, and Red Stroke Entertainment. This character was set to be in a movie titled The Lamb, and Garth Brooks was going to play this character. Well, Garth Brooks took it upon himself to become this character around that same time frame and actually released a greatest hits album for the character Chris Gaines to give it a pre-soundtrack to the actual movie. That greatest hits album was titled The Life of Chris Gaines, and it featured different sounds from Garth, not the typical country sound, R&B, pop rock, that kind of stuff. Well, many were not pleased with the outcome of Chris Gaines. Many did not agree with the decision for Garth Brooks to take it that route. And like I said, now many thought Chris Gaines would never have a resurrection, but here we are in 2020 talking about Garth Brooks and his alter ego again, and that's because Garth Brooks in a recent interview with Billboard revealed that there are major plans coming our way where Garth Brooks is going to be back at it as Chris Gaines. And before we get to the interview, I just have to say it again. I'm so surprised that we are now talking about this again. I mean, this man even took it upon himself to show up to Saturday Night Live as Chris Gaines. He was him on stage. He was Garth or he was Chris, one or the other, however you want to look at it. But Garth Brooks was playing Chris Gaines on Saturday Night Live. There was even a mockumentary made about Chris Gaines. So there was a ton of development around this character. But as I stated before, it never really came to fruition. It never hit theaters. And it wasn't made into a big deal as I think Garth probably wanted it to be. So anyways, getting to the interview, here is what Garth Brooks had to say to Billboard about if Chris Gaines is going to make a grand return. Garth Brooks said, "Trust me, it's got a whole life of its own and it's all coming. It won't be anything predictable, I guarantee you, because that's kind of what that character's thought process was. If you know the greatest hits, they had to come from somewhere. If that tells you what's coming." So for the ones out there who are familiar with that greatest hits album, because let me say this, there were a lot of folks who did like this alter ego and this change of sound with Garth Brooks, but as again, there were many who were not as fond, but you probably are familiar with Lost in You if you have heard this greatest hits album. That was one of the more prominent songs on that record. But for all of you out there looking to hear this greatest hits album, it's really hard to try and locate some of the music out there for this album. We all know that Garth Brooks is not a big fan of throwing his music around on digital platforms anyways, but it is difficult to find. But I challenge you to go out there and look for some of these songs on that record. But hold on, wait a minute, we're not done with big news here, because later in the interview, Garth Brooks talked about someone who might be involved with this in Hollywood. It's a guy that many of us know, and he is a huge country music buff. That is actor Chris Pratt. When talking about Chris Pratt's involvement, Garth Brooks said, "In Chris Pratt's world and movie world, I don't know what I can say and what I can't. All I know is I love him to death and I don't want to do anything to jeopardize that. So I'm going to stay quiet and let him do the talking." So now the question becomes, is there another rock star that he is going to be intermingling Chris Gaines with? Is Chris Pratt going to be playing Chris Gaines? I really hope not. I think Garth Brooks needs to ride this out, and we need to see him fulfill the opportunity to play this character that many of us wish we could have actually seen the movie The Lamb. But there are now a lot of questions surrounding Garth Brooks and just what is to come. I have a feeling that there might be a movie in the future, and what that movie will be, who knows. But let's face it, folks, Chris Gaines is coming back. You gotta kind of be excited, because if you're like me, you are dying to see Garth Brooks play a character in a movie portraying a rock star, especially with a soul patch. Guys, I would love to know your thoughts down below on this in the comments. I gotta hear what you have to say, so make sure you leave some good ones behind. But that will be it for today's video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Turn those notifications on so you never miss out on any breaking updates on your favorite country artist and all the news coming right out of Music City. Y'all stay country.